we are linked to so many different lineages. If you look at your human DNA signature through taking your saliva swab and then sending it to a company that gives you the map of how far your DNA spreads, at this point of our human history, we are that hybridized. Now, extend that to star connections, considering that there are highly advanced human civilizations that colonize many different worlds and many different star systems. And so at this point, we are connected to multitude of stars, starseeds, and there is certain DNA that feels like cousins because they interconnected through connection in multiple star systems and interstellar travel. We are just so interconnected at this point.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the askjulieryan show. It's where we blend spirituality and practicality to help you live a life of purpose and joy. We have Julia Balaz with us on the show today. Julia uses astrology to map the galactic origin points of souls and helps people understand their cosmic roots and soul missions in this lifetime. I have so many questions like, what's her technique? How does her work differ from the standard horoscope reading? And most importantly, I'm going to ask her to do my chart. Please remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and share this episode with your family and friends. Now, let's go chat with Julia. Julia, welcome to the show. I'm so delighted you could join us today.
Thank you, Julie. I'm excited to see where the conversation takes us. Such a joy to be here.
Julie and Julia, or Julia and Julie. I think they made a movie about us.
Yes, about passionate cooking.
Which I'm not a cook, and it sounds like you're not either.
It's total paradox.
So we'll have a new meaning to the Julia and Julie movie, and it'll be spiritual. How about that?
Let's do that.
We'll have a spiritual one. What's galactic astrology, and how does it differ from somebody hearing about their horoscope?
In galactic astrology, we not only take into consideration the planets at the time of your birth, but we expand the perspective to also consider the stars and any other significant deep space object, while we also hold a higher perspective of soul evolving over many incarnations, not only on Earth, but also in other star systems. So when we look at the configuration of these planets and stars at a time of birth, we can see patterns and information that reveals either challenging themes that may be coming from soul's experiences in certain star system, or their gifts and qualities or supportive energies coming from those star system. So receiving information like that can be very validating and activating and healing. It's amazing to see when you have something like that confirmed black and white, especially if you feel a strong affinity to a certain star system and then you see it in your birth chart.
So how do you do it? How do you figure out, what somebody's star chart is, let alone, I know finding somebody's birth chart, you got to have certain different pieces of information. What are those pieces? And then how do you take it a step further into the star chart stuff?
Sure. So the key information that we need is the time of birth, date of birth, location. And many people struggle with identifying the exact time of birth, and there are different ways of how to get the accuracy of that information. And back in the day, it took hours to manually calculate a birth chart, but now we are lucky that technology is evolving fast, and there are many freely available astrological tools online. Many websites offer, if you just type in free astrological calculator, I will do that for you. And I also offer a website that doesn't only calculate the planets within our own solar system, but also adds the stars and significant deep space objects such as galactic center and beyond, which all reveal very important information about our soul's makeup. So you can simply enter these details of yours to the website galacticastrochart.com, free birth chart. And within seconds, you will see where the stars were at the time of your birth. So if you're someone that maybe resonates with either Pleiades or Sirius or Arcturus, some of these stars are talked about a lot in the spiritual community. When you see those stars in your birth chart, you're like, oh my goodness, does that mean that I'm connected? And then you can go down the rabbit hole and start exploring where it takes you.
I know somebody who his wife's an interior designer, and they have a kind of like a planetarium almost in their home. And they had these little pinpoint lights that were put in the what the star pattern was on the night they got married, which was really cool.
So what a beautiful blessing.
They can turn the light on, and have the room be dim, and then you just see the stars lit up in this
very
dome
thoughtful
that's in there. I'd never seen it anywhere else, but I thought it was really creative. Amazing. When they did that.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And some of us don't know what time we're born because, for instance, my birth certificate doesn't have the time of my birth on it because I was born in Columbus, Ohio, and there's about a 10-year period from like the mid 50s to the mid 60s where they decided that that wasn't important. So it's not on there. So how does one find the time of their birth, especially if, number one, their mother or father doesn't remember or their mother or father are deceased?
And oftentimes people believe they remember a correct time, but it can actually be off by several minutes. Point. And sometimes minutes do make a difference in terms of how the chart then comes out. So there are different ways of about it. A skilled astrologer, and every skilled astrologer will be able to assist with that. It's called chart rectification. So they'll ask you a series of questions about the key events of your life. And then based on that, they're able to determine what is the most likely birth chart that you have. And it's very accurate. It certainly works when you have all that information. But there are also intuitive ways that you can use. For example, if you are using a pendulum, if you're good at dowsing or muscle testing, you can ask your own higher self, your own wisdom of the body that knows the exact time to reveal that time to you. And you can go, through that technique, or even in a dream state. And I had that experience this year, actually. I wasn't even asking. But I got the time of birth to the second in my dream state, 7:55:03, and I woke up that moment when that time was given to me, and I knew I was born at 7:55, but the 03 was given to me for some reason in the dream state. And I've known other people who went to bed with the intention to receive the time of birth, and they did receive it. So there are many different ways how to obtain that.
Well, that's what I did. My dad was still alive. My mom was deceased when I was looking for the time of my birth. And I asked my dad, who was in his late 70s at that point, I said, Dad, do you remember what time I was born? And he said, oh, for heaven's sakes, no. I was in a waiting room at the hospital with fluorescent lights for all four of you kids. I have no clue if it was day or night or whatever. So I called my mom's spirit in and I asked her. And she gave that to me. And then the astrologer gave me those series of questions. And she was able to discern that that was the correct time.
Amazing.
I find it interesting, too. My Mima, my grandmother, was born in 1902. And we always celebrated her birthday on a certain day. Well, my uncle and aunt found her birth registry, it handwritten in a book in this little town in Southern Ohio. And it wasn't even the same day.
Oh, wow.
It was a totally different day. And back then they were all born at home. And so, whenever they got around to telling whoever the bursar was or whatever in the little town, hey, we had a baby girl. And they sometimes got it right and sometimes they didn't. What do you do in that situation if you're starting to use the birth date that the person thinks is correct and you are mapping them? Do you know pretty early on that this isn't making sense? This isn't right?
Yeah, when you start mapping the life experience through astrology, and especially as you take time to look back at significant events of the person's life, it'll become very obvious that there is a discrepancy. Yeah, so a skilled astrologer again will be able to tell. Yeah.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit. So you get the birth date, the time, the location, all those goodies, and then how do you figure out what the galactic point is, number one? And the second part of this question is, do all of us come from different planets and stars, or is it just some of us that do that? What's been your experience? So how do you do it first? And then what's your experience been in
Sure.
working with
So
this?
again, nowadays we are lucky. We have the technology. So we have the astronomical data freely available on multiple websites, and that then feeds the astrological data. So again, just enter your details and it all comes ready for you. But in my online courses where I teach galactic astrology, I taught students how to do it manually in case we have no access to the internet. You can do it manually, but again, it takes time. Math. If you're good at math, if you're good at left brain kind of stuff, you can do it. It's a fairly simple process, just time consuming. So I may be biased when I say that I believe we are all connected to stars based on my life experience, and not only on a soul level, but also on a physical biology level. I firmly believe that we carry the stars within our human biology. And there is actually fascinating research that was published almost a decade ago of a Russian scientist that were studying human DNA genome for over 13 years. And the final conclusion that they came to after exploring human DNA at great lengths, the conclusion they came to is that the human DNA was tinkered with an external force, almost like a message left for us in our DNA, where they believe we were altered genetically by most likely extraterrestrial beings, as they came to conclusion. This article can actually be found online still if you look for scientific journals, and this particular was called the wow factor, and then the human DNA. You can see there, but also of course the archaeological findings all over the world, the constellation of the pyramids all over the world, aligning to very particular star systems. There's just too much evidence, and not to speak, of course, of thousands upon thousands of human testimonials of interacting with extraterrestrial beings, whether through regression hypnosis, dream state, abductions. There's just endless stories at this point, and I certainly have witnessed a lot of that in my own experience. So I believe we are all connected to stars. Yeah.
And there are drawings in caves and stuff that look like starship kind of vehicles or phenomena that were drawn on cave walls, I don't know, millions of years ago, thousands of years ago, whatever. And you think, what? How's that work? Why would they draw it if they didn't have any frame of reference for that?
Yes. Yeah, no, of course, the mythology and many of the stories worldwide seem to be speaking of very similar story, that there were the sky people. Some civilizations would call them star brothers. The other would call them gods. They came on chariots of fire and gave us the knowledge of astrology, astronomy, like the Mayans would talk about the Nacals, star people coming from Auriga, Capella in Egypt. There would be stories of people coming from Sirius or Orion, and so on. Yes.
All right. So back to you do the regular astrological thing, and then how do you relate it back to the star system from which that person supposedly came?
Yes.
I'm missing that part.
Yeah. So, for example, we have the outer planets, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, that have very slow transits. And right now, today, actually, as we speak, the planet Uranus is now at 28 degrees of Taurus in tropical zodiac. And behind it, if we look right behind on the night sky, the Pleiades star cluster is right there too. So we can call it a conjunction, an exact alignment where the planet Uranus is streaming in the Pleiadian consciousness and bringing powerful activations to many star seeds that have the Pleiadian degree in their natal chart anchored with any of the planets at the time of their birth. And so, how to answer your question, when there is a star system that is directly behind a planet at a time of your birth, we call that direct conjunction. And that is usually very significant in that person's life, depending on which planet it is. The archetype of the planet is the way that star system is embodied in that person's life through that conjunction. So if you have your sun conjunct Pleiades at the time of your birth, people born in May, they will have this beautiful positive attitude about life, seeing the best in others, wanting to inspire higher ideals, giving second chances. The Pleiadians are like that, this beautiful, bubbly personality, wanting to make this world a better place and kind of absorbing the emotions of the others as well. They often find themselves crying just to release the stuff that they kind of took on from the environment. Does that answer your question? So when the star system is directly behind the planet, where you can even, when you observe the sky, you can see now the Pleiades, if you were able to also see Uranus right behind.
Well, you just described me because I'm a May baby. I'm a Taurus girl.
That's such a beautiful validation, because as I watched your podcast, I'm like, this has got to be a Pleiadian signature. Like, you hold that Pleiadian frequency so strongly. Yeah. And great communicators, and also quite fast paced. Like a Pleiadian soul would watch YouTube videos on speed 1.5 or 2. Like you want to get the information fairly quickly, rather than the polar opposite, maybe Alpha Centauri starseeds or Syrian starseeds. They speak at a much slower pace, and they take their time,
Yeah. I'm a Taurian. Is that the word?
Yeah. So right now you would have Uranus activating your personality, your presence, and that Pleiadian connection should anytime this year come to your forefront quite prominently, where you'll remember how you're connected to Pleiades. You'll remember some connections or more Pleiadian starseeds, people with this Pleiadian signature, like myself. I have it on my ascendant when the Pleiades were rising on the horizon when I was born, and I have that frequency very strong in my life too. So it feels like meeting a soul family, when you have these configurations connected through 2 birth charts. It's called synastry. Then there is likeness, and the way I perceive it would be through stars. Connections in our birth charts.
So I'm on the cusp. So
yes.
Does that have an effect
yes,
one way or
because
the
for
other?
some people, the planet can be either in high degrees of Taurus or early degrees of Gemini. So if it comes through Taurus, if your natal planet is in Taurus rather than in Gemini, then you may be more focused on manifesting the Pleiadian guidance in a physical reality through something tangible, like the scientific devices that you've developed, and you've built multiple companies, and it's like a very active builder, the Taurus. Those that come activated through early degrees of Gemini, they're more of a communicator, social media. You do a bit of both because it is on the cusp, but you had huge portion of your life of that building structures, within whether the devices, the medical devices, or the companies that you've built. And the Gemini kind of leaks in with the communication through social media that you're using and making an impact.
Fascinating. Okay. Back to the DNA in the WOW article. Did it give you a year, like when our DNA was affected by space people?
No, it doesn't. In case I said wow factor, it's the wow signal. The actor is called wow, the wow signal. Well, it's not. I read the whole scientific paper, and no, it doesn't say when. But if we look at the historical text of the ancient mythologies, even if in the text in Bible, if we look back at the ancient Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt, and if we go to the stories of ancient Atlantis, it's the Atlantean era when there was a lot of DNA tinkering and manipulation from the genetists that came from the stars. So we're talking thousands upon thousands of years ago.
Okay. And so you believe that Atlantis really existed, it sounds like.
Yes, yes. In fact, I've done a lot of research in connection to galactic astrology. Apart from planets in our solar system, we also have asteroids. There's asteroid belt, and many of thousands of them have been named. There is asteroid called Atlantis, and there is asteroid called Hawaii. And I track them in our birth charts, many of them, and I see that those people that feel strong affinity to anything related to ancient Atlantean civilization, and even people who have recalls of their incarnation in that civilization, they would have that asteroid prominent in their natal chart. And then based on where it's positioned, which planet it is aligned, in which aspect geometrically, mathematically it is to other things in their chart, it resembles in great detail the story that they remember about themselves. So whether it was traumatic experience or positive experience, whether they were an influencer or leader or something else, the chart also reveals that. In fact, I will do a webinar just on this towards the end of this year, so people can explore this more. But it's fascinating. It's all there.
For those who have heard Atlantis and Lemuria, but have no clue what they are, can you give us just kind of a brief overview of both and how they affect us? Those that have Lemurian energy or Atlantean energy.
Yes. So I would like to first start with the acknowledgement of the cycles of universal cycles. And the fact also that we are living in a holographic fractal universal arrangement. So when we look at the human history through the written text that we have, and then we also explore the human history through the memories and channeled texts of people that didn't know about each other's channelings, yet they revealed same information. So in a way, validated each other's stories over time. Also, if we look at the astrological study of the ancient times and the cycles of planets, of the celestial bodies, we are going in a spiraling motion, and the force of evolution, the evolutionary force, is probably the strongest law, right, governing our lives and the experience in the universe. So if we look back at the cycles, we see that the Atlantean civilization, and also if we are looking at the ancient Egyptian culture and the archaeological findings, which there's a big renaissance because more and more discoveries are being made this year. It is believed that the Atlantean civilization ended somewhere between 12 to 15,000 years ago and was in high rain thousands of years before it fell, before it collapsed, due to a significant event that wiped the entire civilization, while some were rescued on spaceships. There are many people that have a memory of being rescued during the major cataclysmic event. Others were guided to relocate on Earth to safe zones, and many passed during the major cataclysm.
What was the cataclysm? Do we know?
The first of, well, how would I? The collective consciousness as we were going through the downward spiral of like a downfall of consciousness, like the night of the consciousness, the forgetting of the cycle, the overall cycle, like the day and night in nature, like the winter versus summer polarity. There is also much greater cycles of consciousness evolving to its peak and then devolving into a state of forgetting. So at the time when Atlantis was falling, the consciousness was also declining, and the state of greed took over many, and lack of integrity and power, dominance, seeking, all that together caused collapse of the civilization due to technologies that were developed and misused. My last moment that I experienced in a dream state, precisely on the date when asteroid Atlantis was transiting my lunar node, which is conjunct Atlantis. My last moment was seeing like an atomic explosion wave coming. And just before I saw the cloud coming and just destroying everything, there was a telepathic communication between many saying, this is the end. This is the final moment. And I personally had complete peace at it. I went into total surrender. But others were in places on Earth where they experienced the massive water tsunamis and drowned. Others experienced the earthquakes and died under pile of bricks. There are many different ways of passing in that time, but it would have been misuse of very, very powerful technology that caused that civilization to go. Yes.
And most people that I've read about Atlantis all believe that Atlantis is at the bottom of the sea somewhere in, I don't know what, in the Bahamas or someplace. Where do they think it is?
So we have lost civilization of Atlantis in the Atlantic Ocean area, and then we have a lost civilization of Lemuria in the Pacific and Indian Ocean area. So there are remnants.
Were they at about the same time?
No, Lemurian civilization preceded Atlantis by possibly even hundreds of thousands of years. And again, there was another cycle of rise and fall of consciousness. And for the memories of the Lemurian civilizations from people that I interacted with that have memories, it wasn't a cataclysm of similar proportions as in Atlantis due to misuse of technology or through a asteroid that hit the Earth or some other physical shift or anomaly. It was more of a vibrational shift where the civilization simply disappeared because there was a portion of souls that and the Earth land that maintained very high frequency that disappeared to those that descended into lower frequency consciousness, and over time it's just it comes out of sight, out of, what is the saying?
Out of sight, out of mind.
Out of mind, yes.
Yeah.
There was a beautiful movie made, I think, in the 90s called The Celestine Prophecy. It's actually available on YouTube, and you can see it. What I just described depicted beautifully there, where the Mayan civilization would be similar, would carry the similar story or similar experience than the one I just talked about from ancient Lemuria, where there is a portion of an entire civilization that seemed to have just disappeared as if overnight. From archaeological findings, there is just this big question mark, like, where did they all go? What happened? It seems they just evaporated. And that movie, Celestial Prophecy, shows beautifully where once we increase our consciousness to higher frequency, and the only way there is through the heart chakra opening and expanding, and healing the traumas that the physical body carries. You start, once you reach that higher density consciousness, you start perceiving things that you weren't able to see before, including elementals in nature and, the fourth density beings. So it's all about the frequency of consciousness. And that's why there are also these archaeological findings and technology that is still ancient technology that is still present on Earth, but it's locked with the it's locked with a technology that can only be unlocked, used, and activated with consciousness, with the frequency of consciousness. So those that have the open heart and pure intentions, integrity, will be able to see this technology, discover it, and even possibly activate it. And those who aren't aligned, they will simply not be able to experience it in their reality. So we're seeing many stories of this all over the world.
Fascinating. Gosh, I haven't thought about the Celestine prophecy in 40 years. I remember when it came out, that was a big deal. That book was just hugely, hugely successful.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I also want to add to that, if people do take time to watch the movie or read the beautiful book, I believe we are now at the point from that book where they talk about the last scroll that was lost and then discovered. And the last scroll is talking about the point in our evolution of consciousness where we realize how powerful we are when we come together with shared intention. And I see that is happening on Earth now. We have groups of beautiful souls coming together with the intention to selflessly just pray for the well-being of this beautiful planet and the collective, and for the best possible timeline for all involved. And that is going to create such beautiful, powerful shifts in our collective experience.
What led you to suspect that our soul memories might be encoded in galactic alignments? Well, how did you even get to this place?
I facilitated past life regression hypnosis sessions over the years. And first couple of years when I started, clients came mainly to find answers for their most pressing questions. And the big question that every client had is, what's my life purpose? So I was practicing Dolores Cannon's modality, QHHT, and the reason why I chose that particular technique was because it's not me as a practitioner deciding what's best for the client and then guiding them, leading them with questions to a particular place that I think is best for them, but we let their higher self, that beautiful divine intelligence that is present in all of us, to decide what is the most relevant and appropriate moment for them to be taken to through the regression hypnosis to receive the answers that they are looking for. So we simply guide them through that relaxing technique, and something carries them to whatever the appropriate time and place is, and then they start describing what they're experiencing. So many of my clients, and especially around the year 2019, and not just my clients, but I was connected to the practitioners community online worldwide, people started regressing to memories that were not on Earth. And I was studying astrology long before. I studied my clients' birth charts after their sessions, meticulously looking for some proof to information that they shared. First of all, I noticed that when clients who regress to multiple lifetimes, past lives on Earth in different eras, different stories, that there was a thread of a theme of their evolving consciousness across multiple incarnations. And that theme was noted in their birth chart by something we call lunar nodes. There is a past and future archetypes that we are kind of focusing on over many incarnations if needed. So that was a beautiful, powerful validation that, oh my goodness, we can see what our soul wants to focus on, not just in this lifetime, but what we are carrying from previous incarnations and where we are heading with this. And then at some point when the star information started coming through the sessions, I realized we can track stars in birth charts too at the time of birth. So I started calculating that manually. It took me 3 hours to do every chart. But it was all there, especially on a day when clients connected to a particular star system, like the Pleiades. I would have attracted a lot of those because it's strong in my signature. That the star system would be aligned on the day of their session with a planet Mercury or Moon or Venus, and they were able, and then also in connection to their birth chart. So we completely coincidentally booked the date of their session many months in advance. I had long waiting list towards the last years of doing client work. It seemed to be so random, yet on that very day, they were the stars aligned so that their star family can speak to them through that regress state. And the most beautiful, and there are many of these very, very similar stories. First of all, emotional experience of waterfalls of tears as they remember their star family. Then realization that they were never actually fully disconnected, because the star family is always sending supportive, loving energy, and knowing that there are certain key points and times throughout our life when they have a bigger window of stronger ability to communicate with us, when we have a higher chance of hearing them. And realization that they came by choice, that that there was this call that many souls heard across many, many star systems, that this beautiful planet is going through extraordinary window of a massive leap of evolution, where we have as a collective an opportunity to heal what I believe is universal trauma. There are echoes of stories playing out on Earth at this time. I believe we are meant to remember the traumatic experiences through something we experience here on Earth now. And as our consciousness is evolving and we are practicing to transmute heavy energetics with holding state of peace and acceptance and unconditional love, like so many people on Earth, like my generation especially, is devoting their life to studying healing arts of many different types. The holistic healing is on the rise. And I believe the purpose of it is so that we can feel the emotions that were stuck, metaphorically speaking, the Akashic records of the collective, of the many different star beings. We are all a family. Our DNA is connected, and send a ripple wave of healing across these many different star systems, and kind of upgrade or escalate the universal experience towards greater connectivity and greater harmony for all. I believe that's why I hear, and that's why it's so epic that we have millions upon millions of souls coming of very high caliber that are on Earth at this time.
You've been led, girl. You're being led to teach this stuff and do this stuff. That's obvious to me. Speaking of the star systems, the Pleiades, the Sirius, all that kind of stuff, those are all star systems that we can see from Earth. There are, who knows, how many, Carl Sagan came up with what? There's how many galaxies and how many star systems, and how they have no clue, really. They're basing
I believe infinite.
Yeah, it's infinite. So when you talk about raising the vibration here on Earth, just from a linear perspective, it makes sense to me that we're affecting the star systems around us that we can perceive. Do you believe that we're affecting the star systems and the solar systems and all that jazz, all of them at once, even that we can't see, that are far, far away?
Well, everything is interconnected, but the fact that our human consciousness is paying attention to something, by nature of that paying attention, it affects it more strongly. It's as if there is the radio signal that is sent everywhere, but only the receptors that tune their own receiver point to that frequency will, in resonance, hear and then be changed by it. So I believe our attention, where we focus, it plays a crucial role in what is happening or how we connect to cosmos and to very particular star system. And the stars that were actively engage with human evolution through ancient civilizations. There are many star beings that were physically on Earth throughout the ages. So those are the most prominent ones, and that's why we hear about them the most in our spiritual community, astrologers community, such as the Pleiades, Arcturus, Sirius, but there are many, many others. And I selected the calculator that we use, the free calculator. Doesn't include hundreds of stars. It includes 60 stars that I kept experiencing through client sessions that I felt like there was a repetition and there was a reason why they came through, where there literally is human life history on these star systems that have their planets that are exoplanets like Earth, where human life is possible. So there are those that really stand out as a majority. But then there are many stories that are minority of souls that connect to just like a random star. I had a person who texted me. She said, I just had a regression with another practitioner. And when we connected to my higher self, it gave me the number H 2100 something. Do you know what that means? So I immediately looked up stars' names because I recognized the format that she received and looked at the star, then quickly calculated where that star is in a tropical zodiac, then looked at this person's birth chart, and that star was rising at a time of their birth. It was conjunct their ascendant. So it's like, and it's not even a fixed star. It's just a random small star lost in space somewhere, but it's named already by a number, not by a proper name. But somehow her soul is connected to that. So, you know, we have over 8 billion people on Earth at this time. The souls came here from all over the galaxy and beyond. We are seeing in our connection through the sessions and through Akashic Records readings in my entire community, there are souls that came literally from other galaxies. So it's quite epic what is happening, the orchestration of the consciousness that was ushered to Earth at this time because of its position of this grand cosmic cycle and movement through a very particular place in the galaxy, where it's even measured by our astronomers that there is higher photonic light, that we're moving through a cloud in the Milky Way galaxy that is that activates literally higher consciousness. And again, that is something that is aligned with the prophecies. So it's just everything, wherever we look, there are signs of this major event that is happening, this global experience that essentially is taking us out of the age of forgetting and into the age of remembering, where the veil is lifted and we reconnect with our star families.
I would imagine multiple times a day, perhaps a week, even, you're thinking to yourself, I just can't make this stuff up. You know, the correlations are, you name that one star that had been named with the H and then the numerals, and it's in your client's birth chart, and you're thinking, I can't make that stuff up. That's just, isn't Absolutely. That fun when that happens?
I live for these moments. I live for them.
I do too. They're really fun.
There are endless stories like that. I would just share one more. For people who are connected to or have affinity to certain star system and they don't find it in their birth chart. For example, in my birth chart, I don't have direct conjunct alignment to star Sirius, yet I've met so many Sirian souls. But last year, I had a dream where I met this plasmic being in a shape of a Proticta or Chacana. It's like this ancient Mayan Aztec cross, but it was like 3D and was plasmic. And I gave it permission to read me, and then it moved some lights in it, and then one sphere lit up, and it said, the dog star. Your star is the dog star. And I woke up. I knew that's a name for Sirius A. Looked at my astrology, looked at the progressions, like it's a timing technique in astrology. And exactly that year, Sirius was on my ascendant. So I received an activation of Sirian codes into my being, started with a dream state telling me to pay attention. And then within a week, I purchased a beehive totally randomly, not thinking, it kind of just happened. Empty secondhand beehive, put it into my garden, and within 24 hours, this massive hive of beautiful Irish wild honeybees arrived, activated the whole property. And when that happened, I had asteroid Hathor and asteroid Isis connected to Sirius through trine. And it was just like such a perfect indication where I really had to start paying attention to Syrian teachings and the mythologies of Hathor, Isis, and then look at my own incarnations from before, remembering, So stories like that, endless, and not just in my life, but the whole community that I'm with. So I'm sure there's something to it. There's order and chaos.
Well, and what are bees known for? Pollinating and creating, helping things grow, right? Helping things thrive with the pollination.
The interconnectedness, and every bee plays its role, and there is this telepathic communication. There's such a powerful symbology in that. But the bees tend to be connected to the Syrian teachings, and Hathor and Isis, the ancient Egyptian goddesses, were associated with that symbology.
And you're the queen bee of this, so of course they're going to have that beehive is going to find you. You're the queen bee of all of this. I had a buddy, Simon Bown, on this show, and he did a past life regression with me, which I've never done. When I do what I call past life scans, where I don't regress the person, but it's similar to what you're doing. I'm in this endless hallway. Let's say I'm in the Julia hallway, and we have a question that you want to know. So we'll ask the question, and the hallway is full of mirrors, and the mirrors that correlate with the question will come out from the wall. And then I'll say, show me the one that correlates the most, and it'll come out the farthest. And then I'll envision walking into it, and it's like I'm walking into a scene of a movie, and we'll get where it was, when it was, what was going on. And then we'll get, how does it correlate with the current life? Because I agree with you, there's always a semblance of a script that we're exploring in multiple lifetimes. So I'd never been regressed, and I thought, that might be kind of fun. So I had Simon on the show, and he regressed me. And I thought that I might kind of lose my cognitive ability, but I was totally aware of everything that was going on at the time. And our question was, where did my interest in healing begin? Began on some star 500 billion light years away, 500 billion light years away. And I recalled, and it's on, it's anybody can watch it. I forget what the number is, but I was recalling what happened when I was infused with this energy to help people heal, whether it be in the medical supply business early on in my career, after a few years inventing things and manufacturing surgical devices, and now with the woo-woo, with the energy healing. That blew my mind, Julia. I was like, what? 500 billion light years away. So does that mean that that was a planet that I existed on at some point, or a planet that I stopped off on to get like a frequency upgrade or something, or all of the above?
Well, if we go to the very start, before the fractalization from source itself, the moment when you become individual consciousness at some point, based on the frequency resonance, if I always think of it as a rainbow spectrum, that we have fractals of source that carry the blue ray, we have fractals of source that carry the orange ray, and so on. And based on the resonance, they will navigate towards star systems that also carry the same frequency ray, right? There has to be likeness, and of the lighter density, like before you become physical, human soul incarnate. I have witnessed this with many of my clients that, well, not many, I would say maybe a handful, maybe up to 10 clients that regressed to perceiving themselves as a star being, as a consciousness of a star. And so and while they were So did you know yourself as a star, or you were like in that star as a being? Were you the star, or were you in the like within the star as a?
I was within the star. And I remember thinking it when I was watching all this stuff and afterwards thinking, well, how could people live on a star? Because it's too hot. You gotta, that's.
Yeah, it's the higher density. It's not about the physical; it's the energetical alignment when you are being of light or star be.
So I'm replaying this in my head, and I'm one with the star.
Yeah,
I'm one
so
with the star.
I would call them solar beings. So as a solar being, then you are able to also telepathically communicate with other star systems. And at some point you felt the call of our star, the soul, calling out for support, calling in light beings to anchor more light and love on Earth as she is going through her ascension process. Because if that didn't happen, the density of human consciousness that are like cells of Earth's system would be dragging her to the point where she would have to make a choice of, again, just wiping the whole civilization. But because she's going through such extraordinary path in the Milky Way galaxy, she offers once in aeons opportunity for billions of souls to go through her rapid evolution of consciousness. So there are many souls that want to experience the lower density and practice mastering manipulating energy through consciousness, transmuting density into light, creating gold out of lead. It's such an opportunity to do this in just one lifetime. When Earth goes through the ascension process, we would have souls coming in and incarnating, going through a tiny leap of their consciousness over many incarnations. They would have these digging potato lives, like Dolores Cannon would call them, for multiple incarnations. There's just such a minute shift in consciousness because Earth herself is just like sleeping, as a conscious being because of the grand cycle. But now she is going through rapid awakening, like a spurt at the early spring, where so much happens within a week. So much happens in a week in spring. So I believe this is what we're going through as a cycle. And it's such an opportunity for individual fractals of source to go through this massive leap of consciousness in a lower density. So you kind of project a part of your consciousness from that star system billions of light years away to experience something like that. It's unique.
Okay. I have 5 billion questions for you.
Actually, before we go there, your intention for receiving that answer to, where did it start? So you were taken very, very
far
to the initial fractalization of your being, which really could have been billions of years ago in human time perception. And since that birth, or since that time when you were in that star system, you likely incarnated in many other star systems that were closer and closer and closer to Earth eventually, including Pleiades as the most recent one, most likely, which is only 400 light years away.
Fascinating. And since time doesn't exist in the spirit world, it could have happened concurrently, which makes my head want to explode because I don't understand it. Because I'm thinking, what? So do you have a thought about that?
Because when you're regressed and you're in that quantum state, it's such a perfect word for this. You're aware of your surroundings, while at the same time you're aware of regressing to completely different experience. You're perceiving yourself as a star. You are aware of other beings there. You're also aware of your spirit guides kind of watching over it. You're just aware of so many things. It's a quantum state, and it's a different brainwave frequency altogether. When we're in beta state, everyday analytical, logical, we perceive linearly. We cannot comprehend it. But the moment we switch to theta brainwave state, just breathing technique or deep meditation, we switch to non-linear perception where past, present, and future are happening at the same time. So in essence, it all is happening in the now.
Well, and I switched into those states in a nanosecond, and that's what I teach too. And the more you do it, you know this, the more you do it, then it's just second nature. You just don't even think about it. But when you were saying that, I was back on that experience with Simon when he was regressing me. And I don't remember seeing any, I'm doing an instant replay in my head. I didn't see any other beings. I didn't see anything else. I just saw myself one with the star and getting all this energy.
I'm so glad you're saying that, because I felt that from you too, that you were that star. You feel like the solar being. You have that frequency of solar being, of literally a star that would shoot that fractal of its consciousness to experience itself in a lower densities and to connect with others. Like, it's in our nature as fractals of source to be creators and to connect and share love and share understanding and explore. So that's what you as a child of God are. And then you travel through all these different star systems and planets and have fun.
That blew my mind, still does. Have you ever done a person's galactic chart and it exposed something in their personality that was a surprise to them, perhaps?
That's such a good question. No, I don't. Well, I'm possibly, but right now nothing comes to mind, because usually the intention is to bring something that is most relevant to them at the time of receiving the reading. And it usually, the purpose of their first reading is to receive validation of something that they already were innately guided to explore and recognize in themselves. And then just clarity, greater clarity about what it actually is that they came here to do and who they are. So, perhaps lifetimes of Jesus, like connections with the Essenes. You know, I had an entire year, and again, astrologically, I can understand why I attracted so many people. I would say 30, 40 people easily, who each had deep connection to the Essenes community that held energetical container for Jesus and Mary Magdalene. So seeing something like that in a chart, and then also through the Akashic records, and then it's just, goosebumps and tears because they recognize the deep resonance with the teachings. Stories like that, where you actually confirm something major from human history, and you were actually there, and then everything makes more sense.
You are amazing and fascinating, and I have so many more questions for you. Are you okay if we go long and we just do this in 2 parts?
Of course, I would love to. Let's do that. Okay. Time flies by when we talk about these things, and it's so energizing. We could keep going, of course.
Me too. I feel the same way. I keep getting goosebumps when you say something, and that means that it's profound, and it means that it's validation from spirit, and I'm getting that. Do you see common galactic soul origins in Earthlings? To enhance your spiritual journey, click on one of the videos below, and remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and share this episode with your family and friends. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Ask Julieryan Show. It's where we blend spirituality and practicality to help you live a life of purpose and joy. This is part 2 of my conversation with galactic astrologist Julia Balaz. I found her so fascinating, and our conversation went long, so we're releasing it in back-to-back episodes. Please remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and share this episode with your family and friends. Now, let's continue the conversation with Julia. So, Julia, this is so fascinating. You are extraordinary, and I have so many more questions for you. Are you okay if we go long and we just do this in 2 parts?
Of course, I would love to. Let's do that.
Okay.
Time flies by when we talk about these things, and it's so energizing. We could keep going, of course.
Me too. I feel the same way. I keep getting goosebumps when you say something, and that means that it's profound, and it means that it's validation from spirit that I'm getting that. Do you see common galactic soul origins in Earthlings? Does that sound like a Jetsons term from the cartoon from the 60s in Earthlings? You had mentioned earlier that you see like Pleiades and Sirius and that kind of thing. Do you see that there are just a handful of star systems or other planets in the people with whom you work, or are you seeing a multitude of them?
There's a multitude, hundreds, I would for sure, but there is what do you call it? Law of attraction is working in all of our lives. So I have my certain point of attraction. So I keep attracting quite a variety because I myself in my own chart have so many different stars. Like my whole chart is activated galactically. So, but what I see a lot is this multi-galactic signature where, and you can understand it also from human biology. At this time, we are linked to so many different lineages, right? I myself, even physiologically, am a combination of a Nordic lineage and south all the way to the Black Sea, through my mother's lineage, the Nordic, and through my father's lineage, the Black Sea. So, and there, so many, if you look at your human DNA signature through taking your saliva swab and then sending it to a company that gives you the map of how far your DNA spreads. At this point of our human history, we're that hybridized. I don't really like that word, but now extend that to star connections, considering that there are highly advanced human civilizations that have interstellar travel developed and in use for hundreds of thousands of years, where they also are able to terraform planets to start again in different worlds. Like we have human civilizations that colonize many different worlds and many different star systems. And so at this point, we are connected to multitude of stars, starseeds, and there is certain DNA that feels like cousins because they interconnected through connection in multiple star systems and interstellar travel. We are just so interconnected at this point.
Can you give us an example of those cousins?
So the Lyran connection would be like the most ancient human ancestors that then, through the development of interstellar travel through far distances on massive space arcs that carried the humans, but also animals and plant life and DNA of their original star systems and planets on these massive space arcs, just like Noah's Ark. They would take life forms to new stars and planets. So from there, they would actually come. Some of them would come to Earth very, very, very long time ago, to the Nordic parts. Then they would leave for Pleiades and met other Lyrans that went directly to Pleiades, and then came back to Earth as Pleiadians that remembered their original, like Lyran humans from Earth. They would have also seeded Sirian star systems, planets. Some would have gone to Orion, some to Alpha Centauri, some to Beta Centauri. These are all within our fair proximity of, 400 to 800 light years away. And they all look like us, like humans. In fact, if they walked side by side you and wore, everyday human clothes, you wouldn't even recognize them. They look so like us.
So are they amongst us now?
I wholeheartedly believe so. And I know people that know people that would have been either Pleiadians or Alpha Centaurians on Earth, working in very specific roles to support the evolution of either technologies or different things on Earth. So yes, absolutely.
Are they scattered all over the Earth, or do you find that they're in certain geographical locations?
All over the Earth. Well, in particular, see, there are so many secret companies and programs taking place with bases all over the Earth. So it would be widespread. But I think the bigger message here is that it's going to become publicly known. And I believe because of the astrological alignment of Uranus on the Pleiades this entire year, with another object called Sedna, which has the orbit that is the longest, and it traverses through the outer space of our solar system for tens of thousands of years, and only during certain times of this grand cosmic cycle, this object comes closest to the Earth, which is now during these years, and it's coming also with the Pleiades and Uranus conjunction. So I think that plays such a significant role in awakening our human consciousness, and in Pleiades being talked about left, right, and center on social media. And by the end of this transit, I feel by the spring 2026, we will have high probability of disclosure of human Pleiadian extraterrestrial life in public media. I think that's such an opportunity, and I like it. It would just make so much sense based on this transit. But just watch the space for how much there will be the Pleiadian agenda on throughout the internet. It'll just be so activated, because if you think about it, for human collective, that still has so much to do in terms of resolving and dissolving trauma in relation to extraterrestrial life that was imposed on us through movies, projecting fearful state in terms of connecting with aliens that want to destroy us or eat us and whatnot. We still have so much unconscious fear in our collective consciousness that we are actively working on. Many people in the woke community would dedicate to helping with that. And also the rapid growth of regression hypnosis, where people are dealing with their abductions and dissolving the trauma. That all is helping the healing of the collective unconscious and kind of allowing for the reality to open and shift to us actually embrace the connection of our human ancestors coming from stars. And the most likely extraterrestrial race that the public could accept would be those that look just like us, right? They wouldn't want to see these different shapes like mantis humanoid beings or all other kinds, blue skin, green skin, grays. There's so many different types of human extraterrestrial beings with different DNA.
So how did you get to do this? Are you an astrophysicist? Do you come from a family of people that are really interested in the stars and astrology or astronomy stuff? How'd you get so smart and so wise so fast? Because you're not that old.
Yeah, no one in my family, but coincidentally, my mother knew a guy who was librarian. He seems to like her a lot, and somehow through conversation, he thought she's interested in esoterics and paranormal, and he kept giving her these magazines that even talked about extraterrestrial life and paranormal stuff, and she just kept accepting these magazines and bring them home and just ignoring them. But I was the one that read them, so it was clearly for me. And I was from very early age, lived very self-reflective, almost like a Gnostic experience of parallel awareness of the higher consciousness awareness and the human body consciousness. And then in my early teens, I discovered astrology. So was deeply involved with studying deep psychology and why we are the way we are. And then when I was 33, I quit my corporate career and started doing regression hypnosis after years of learning different techniques and modalities while doing the corporate stuff. But at the age of 33, I was like, I can't pretend anymore. I need to come out of the closet, and never looked back. So it was really the rapid evolution or deep understanding of how our souls evolve over many incarnations and how interconnected we are with cosmos and the stars happened through witnessing thousands of stories of regression, and then studying astrology as well, and of course having access to internet, seeing.
Right. You mentioned a couple of minutes ago about that the starseeds came to the Nordic region. Can you say more about that? There seems to be this special magical stuff that goes on in the Nordic region, and I'm sure there is everywhere, but that one in particular seems to have a little bit of extra sparkle in my short exploration of these different cultures. What's that all about?
So the Pleiadian DNA, so the story that I've shared where the original human ancestors coming from Lyran star system that found Earth before it was colonized by any other extraterrestrial human beings, they found this beautiful Eden in the Nordic countries that were not that cold at that time. It was a beautiful, perfect Mediterranean-like climate in the Nordic countries at the time. Hundreds.
And those would include what countries as we know them today?
Scandinavia. Eventually, the DNA would spread through all of these Nordic countries in time, but initially it would have been Scandinavia. But then, as Earth was discovered by other extraterrestrial human beings who established their colonies in different locations, and thousands of years of that reign of different kingdoms, we could say, that eventually as the consciousness was descending and greed started taking over and war started taking over, those Scandinavian peaceful civilization decided to leave Earth. They didn't want to partake in any of these conflicts, and they settled in Pleiades, where they knew that their ancestors settled directly from Lyra. So, we're speaking, these are stories that span over thousands upon thousands of years and civilization's development. So they came originally from Lyra to Scandinavia, lived there for several generations, then left to Pleiades, leaving some portion of humans behind. And so there was this trauma of being left, and it's such an archetypal experience of separation that we are transmuting as a collective as well, that is originating with these mass exodus of souls from a star system due to external forces pushing them to experience their own hero's journey and find new way to start somewhere else from scratch. And then how do you bring your traditions and honor the ancestors and honor the original divine design of your nation, the hero's journey and the creator's story as well, of the fractalization from unity consciousness into infinite variations, so that you can know yourself. Like, because it's holographic and fractal, we can just see the echo of the same story played out in so many different ways. But you were asking about this special DNA of these Nordics that would have then later been reverted to as these extraordinary beings that have special abilities. So when the star beings left for Pleiades, then came back thousands of years later to returning to Earth to connect. We're speaking about civilization that is advanced enough to have the telepathic communication and connect with source, feel the universal cycles, connect with star systems, like us at this time, and we don't even consider ourselves as developed. You're able to tap to so many different spheres and realms. So these civilizations were masters at connecting with higher wisdom. And most of all, we didn't even mention these guardians of time-space continuum, these seeders beings, seeder races, and the master genetists, beings that work solely with preparing planetary system for human souls incarnations. So what I've mentioned here today is human beings that are third density or fourth density incarnations. And now I just mentioned higher density beings of perhaps sixth and seventh density that are not even incarnating in human bodies. They are like these plasmic beings. They're connected to the no time, no space continuum. And from there, they create in physical realities and prepare worlds for souls that want to evolve, because Source is infinitely joyfully creative, evolving through all these different fractals of itself, right?
I'm thinking the movie The Guardians of the Galaxy. Isn't that
beautiful.
a series of movies? When you just mentioned that, I'm thinking, isn't that a movie? All right. I still want you to do my chart, but I got a couple of other questions before we get to that. Do you find that people from the same galactic origins have the same struggles in their human lives that they're trying to figure out and work through and alchemize, for lack of a better word?
There certainly are themes that I can see over and over with same star systems. So, for example, if the Lyran stars are connected in hard aspects, geometrical terms, square opposition, then people in their soul records would have memory of ancient wars that occurred in Lyra by the invasion of Draconian civilization that is all about conquering and destroying and manipulating. So I see it a lot. So if someone has these square alignments or opposition to Lyra, and then I would look at their even life experience, that story of that ancient, most ancient memory of trauma of mighty scale would be echoing then all the way to this incarnation. So they would be born to a country that was invaded and experience war, and then they had to migrate. And it's an opportunity for them to revisit the unresolved emotions that got stuck in their soul system, so that it can be released, so that they don't have to continue reliving the story over and over again. I really believe that we, when we are going through these difficult experiences and we see the echoes of them throughout the soul records and through galactic astrology, take it as an opportunity to be at peace with what is, really bring that unconditional love of your oversoul into the physical body so it can process and release, most of all, release the emotion by feeling it, but no longer resisting it. And like by magic, light comes in and it's a ripple effect of the soul history. And then going forward, you reconnect to your divine birthright to feel safe in this universe, which was blocked by this stuck trauma memory for so long. So I see that story repeated over and over with Lyran connections. Orion stars alignments, again, if in square or opposition, these people would often be experiencing a theme of intense polarity, conflicts in their life experience. And it's an echo of what they lived in Orion. Also wars. It's like the war from Lyra that moved on from star system to star system, bringing an opportunity for an evolution of consciousness. And, I have a belief that the evil force, the darkness, is assisting light to reach its highest potential, or it's assisting evolution. If we're too complacent, too comfortable, we tend to just not really tap to our greatest potential of the strength and courage and creativity and adaptability and all that. And of course, it's a big topic that can be explored. But so talking about Orion, this polarity, and they are guided to master polarity, to stop being polarized either one way or the other, and then fighting for the which perspective is right, finding the unified higher perspective of accepting the fractal fragmentation of many different perspectives, essentially leading to same thing if we really reach a higher perspective on any topic. Starseeds that, for example, have crux, acrux stars, Algol, Perseus, Hydra, Alphard. There are multiple stars where their presence in people's charts, these would have experienced very heavy family trauma conditioning. But these souls would also usually have, because of these stars, they have an ability to hold space for intense darkness. I would see it in holistic practitioners who deal with sexual trauma in their clients, all kinds of abuse. And they're the types of people that can manage that without exhausting themselves. They can hold safe space for the darkest corners of human experience. So there are definitely themes that repeat, and it's quite fascinating. I actually have a presentation on that available on my possibly YouTube channel, maybe portion of it, but on Patreon for like $3, where I go through these different themes that you can clearly see, and then people, when they find it, oh my God, this is exactly what I'm doing. It's like it's right there.
Yeah, interesting. How does knowing somebody's galactic origin help them in their lives? Does it increase their abundance? Does it increase the quality of their relationships or their health, or all of the above? What's the benefit of knowing, okay, I came from wherever as a starseed? How does that help people?
First of all, it's is being seen in your truth is highly activating and validating for people who went through life believing that they're very limited in terms of who they are, who they can be, what they should be, realizing that that is an identity that they inherited through the familial conditioning, the societal conditioning, something that they never really were happy in. It was very limiting and dragging them down. Now, when they realize that they actually have, they remember the truth of their soul, where they came from and what that means for them, it immediately helps to dissolve the limiting perception that they had of themselves, and suddenly feeling more expanded in their energetical field. And naturally, as a result, that'll attract beautiful synchronicity and alignment, and new people, new relationships come to their life, or suddenly they see choices and opportunities that they didn't see before. So it can be very activating. And then it's just a stage 2 of yet another label that has its limits. And then essentially, or eventually, my hope is for anyone who goes down the route of exploring their galactic connection, once you see how normal it is, or how common it is to have these star origins, you get to a point of realizing that the thing that connects us all is our ability to love, create, share, support each other. Like, we become this big family, and it doesn't matter if you're Pleiadian or Arcturian or Sirian. It doesn't matter. It's all about returning to the capacity to love and support and evolve together as a harmonious civilization. So ideally, that's the stage where we're all heading.
Is that a Beatles song? All you need is love. Da, 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 da. That's what comes in my head when you say that, and I completely agree. Can you share a story with us about how someone's life changed when they learned their galactic origin?
Wow. You know, I received so many comments and so many emails. Like they will say, it's life changing. It's life changing. This, my life is not the same. I've heard so many of these. And then the exact detail, it's really the shift in your consciousness. And as I said, the expanded energetic field is the factor that creates the ripple effect of positive changes. Again, seeing choices and opportunities that you didn't see before. And when you align with your greatest soul's gifts and qualities, and you start acting on it, either taking a path of Galactic Astrology practitioner, I would see those stories of life's change, I suppose, the best, from someone who was at the brink of losing their home, literally having their children getting assistance in preparing them for what that will be like, to being booked out for a year ahead with Galactic Astrology sessions. So having, secure living. This was at the very start when one of the early practitioners were taking the wave of my over year-long waiting list, when I had to take a decision to just stop doing sessions and instead teach people to do what I do, so that there is no waiting list, so that everyone can receive that assistance. But yeah, people changing careers completely from, we have people from all walks of life, including scientists and even astronomer, big corporate jobs, who changed career completely and started doing Galactic Astrology because it's so fulfilling and so expanding. And every session offers another deeper look into this epic cosmic orchestration of evolving consciousness.
I find the same thing in my trainings as well. Not the galactic, I'm not doing the galactic thing, but people from all walks of life, and then they incorporate the woo-woo into whatever they're doing. And oftentimes they will change careers because it's not fulfilling. And they know how to follow the guidance now. They know how to hear it. They know how to break through all the noise and validate the information they get.
What I see as a beautiful evolution of what I started is people who are drawn to this as a modality that they want to practice, especially those that already studied and practiced completely different holistic modality. They're adding the galactic information to what they were doing. So now we have these beautiful hybrids, modalities that, whether it's Reiki practitioners that look at the galactic story of their clients, and they follow the transits and let Arcturians work with them very particularly on a day when Arcturus is aligned with a sun or moon or whatnot. Gene keys practitioners expand that galactic perspective, human design, family constellations, animal communication. We have practitioners who do animal birth charts too, and surprise, surprise, horses that are in. I just actually have a podcast that we're editing now that'll be released. We have a practitioner who is working with horses that were injured, would be euthanized, but she takes them on and they become the healing horses, and they work with human traumas. And then she looks at their chart and it's like, oh my goodness, they have this particular alignment, like either Sirian, which is really good. Sirius connection is very good for Star Series, is very good for physical body healing. Arcturian alignments is really strong with practitioners who work on emotional trauma healing. So animals too have connection. You can see how the story just goes on and on.
Interesting. I never thought about that, but that would make sense. Yeah, that you knew when they were born. Okay, so what'd you come up with?
So I entered your birth details, and your chart is just packed with the galactic information and many star conjunctions, as suspected. So I'm just so happy to see this. I'll send you a copy of it so you can share it on the screen if you will. But you have conjunctions. So again, it means it's the strongest connection because the star system is directly in alignment with a planet at the time of your birth. I also pay attention to oppositions and trines and sextiles and squares because they all reveal different parts of the story in terms of relationship dynamics in connection to that star system memory. But having a lot of conjunctions is something that I see with what I call the galactic ambassadors, and really just repeating what I said at the very beginning, that if you are someone, people with this type of placements are pushed to a position of influence where they connect with way more people than someone who doesn't have these many stars in their chart. Some people's role is to be stationary in one place, in one location, and just fully focusing on one particular thing where they only interact with small number of people. They wouldn't need all these different stars in their chart. They literally don't need it. But people who are on a mission where they are supposed to influence a greater number of people, they usually have extra codes, extra star codes to support that experience. So, starting with the Pleiades that we mentioned is conjunct your natal sun, and it's in the 4th house, which connects to the ancestors. So you even have the looks of it. So if you look at your genealogy, if you look at your human DNA, you possibly would have some connection to a location where it's literally human Pleiadian DNA that was seeded on Earth, that's within your genetics based on what I see in your chart. Do you know if you have any European connection at all?
Yeah, a lot of German, primarily Irish, a little Polish in there too, but primarily German, and then I would say Irish, and then just like a smattering of Polish.
Yeah, so it's very likely that that lineage carries the human Pleiadian DNA. Okay. Your Mercury is connected to star in Andromeda. You also have that strong Andromedan feminine leadership frequency, the builder, and the self-confidence in Andromeda. Andromedan females, their culture, what's the good word, celebrates or embraces strong feminine leadership. So women who have a strong Andromedan connection in their chart, they usually answer the call to be courageous and speak up and be a leader in their community where they're guided. So that's there too. And also your lunar node, your soul's evolutionary journey from previous incarnations to your future incarnation. Your south node, which is where you came from, also connects to the Andromeda. So that Andromedan frequency is something that wants to be anchored in your consciousness quite strongly. So whenever you will hear Andromedan transmission somewhere, I'm sure there are channelers of Andromedan frequency. Have a look, or even yourself, just call on your Andromedan star connections and see what information wants to come through. But again, it'll be connected to leadership and fulfilling your role of the influence that you may have on the human collective. Okay. Your North Node, the star Algorab, is present, and that is the connection to the other side. People who have this connection, they have their clairs developed naturally because it's something that they used in previous incarnations too, which just comes naturally. They don't have to work hard at it. You can feel, sense the spirit world. And that's I see that repeatedly with the Algorab connection. For you, that's in the 9th house, teacher, communicator, seer, guide, communing with the other side. So it's interesting that you do what you do. It's perfectly aligned. Okay. You have star Arcturus on your moon. So that is beautiful. And that's the scientific background that you have. Many scientists have the Arcturian connection, and also in the 9th house on your moon in Libra. So what I always see with the Arcturians is two expression. One is the ability to focus, learn, study, and see patterns and create something scientific. And the other is high compassion capacity, and for you, it's in your moon. So you can really hold space for other people's suffering. And what you do, that Arcturian frequency come through your moon, through your heart, and it's healing for others. Others feel safe in that experience. And it's interesting that the Algorab and Arcturus is there again, something that I would see with healers who hold space for others. So there's, these galactic energies work with you and through you when you offer yourself in service this way. Your natal Neptune in early degrees of Scorpio is conjunct the Shapley Attractor. So we have the galactic center that our Milky Way galaxy is revolving around. That is revolving around supergalactic center with 33 other galaxies, mighty magnetic force. And all that is revolving around the great attractor, pulling together thousands of galaxies. And all that together is pulling around a Shapley Attractor, which is almost incomprehensible, the mighty force that is behind it. So what we noticed that particular astrological degree, which with quite wide orb of influence, having that conjunct a natal planet is often seen in people of great influence. It's an unconscious, invisible force that is moving mountains even. So for you, it's Neptune. So you have direct connection to source frequency. You could, in practice, it's easy to tap to Akashic records. In practice, you can see the truth in someone. In practice, for you, it's also in 10th house of your career and public service. So you're meant to use your intuition as a direct source to the utter truth inside the depths of our soul or human body in healing as you do. So that's quite fascinating to have that there. That's such a magnetic frequency that serves your mission as a healer, teacher, guide that you are. You also have Jupiter conjunct your midheaven. Midheaven is the point of the highest light of your chart, highest attention, and how you serve the public. What's your mission that is visible to the world, or how do you show up in your highest expression? And that's conjunct Alpha Centauri, clearly a multigalactic starseed. I wouldn't be surprised if you came from the solar being. Those that have this conscious remembering their solar essence are naturally guided through life to be in the position where they can emanate that frequency into the world because Earth called for it. It needed more light and love that's unconditional to be anchored on Earth. So it's quite beautiful to see that in your chart.
That's a lot. I'm going to have to listen to that several times to digest all of that. But thank you for doing it. And I love that it's an example to those that are listening and watching, when they want to get their charts done of what can come through, the information that can come through, which is so fascinating, from your birth details. Again, you can't make this stuff up. It's just it's blowing my mind again. I know I've said that several times.
Did it resonate with you, what I shared? Did it make sense?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, there is more. This is literally just, we are so ancient. You can zoom in on many different areas. You can ask about your relationships. You can ask about your career, your health, your whatever dark night of the soul. You then look at the transits and see where the planets are currently and what is being activated, because it is through astrology, we see how every significant event in our life, from birth of your child, weddings, passings, they are happening at the precise time when certain planets lock together so that these passages of experience can occur. It doesn't happen before a transit. It doesn't happen after. It happens precisely when there is exact geometrical, mathematical configuration for these things to happen. It feels to me like we are a reflection of these celestial bodies in human form, and vice versa. They reflect our consciousness back to us, and it almost feels like we are the stars. We are the cosmos, especially when we talk to that brainwave state, when we're one with all. But it's just beautiful to see how we can communicate with divine design through something like this.
All right, 2 last questions as we're winding down. I could talk to you for days, but 2 last questions. Is there something, are there a couple of things that everybody can do that would be simple things that would help them really be able to focus on and live and experience all the positive ramifications of their galactic origins, perhaps without even having their charts done? I mean, is there something that it would be simple for people to incorporate into their lives right now as we're winding down this?
Such a beautiful question. Yes. Before I answer it clearly with a practice, I want to say just keep developing your connection with your, I call it higher heart, your soul's heart. What is also important to mention as people start connecting with the galactic beings for the first time is do not do that before you address heavy trauma that you consciously may be aware of within your immediate life, like childhood or family. For people who have gone through a lot and didn't yet go through the experience of healing, it's safer to park all this completely and just work with your current life experience, connect with the earth, let the trees and the sea and literally the frequency of Earth herself and the sun that is highly activating at this time work with you before you start exploring all this. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is it's the attraction point that we have based on our field energetically. If we hold a lot of trauma, you see it yourself that you may likely be attracting relationships that keep affirming the conditionings of the past trauma as an opportunity for you to look at that and resolve it so that eventually you stop attracting the same kind of conditioning and pattern. If you have that in your life experience where you keep attracting difficult experiences over and over, extend that to galactic, to other beings. And through law of attraction, you may well then attract lower density consciousness or beings that don't necessarily have the best intentions of humanity at heart, because they're out there too. It's not all just nice and dandy. Is that the expression? I do want to mention that as a word of precaution. However, if you are in your life experience already where you have cleaned a lot of the debris of the previous conditionings and you can see the reality aligning beautifully for you, you're absolutely safe to expand with your prayer to call in your star soul family and to give hope to those that are still heavily conditioned by trauma. Just make sure that you're praying to connect with your true soul family. You're not just opening to call in any beings, because sometimes people do that in not knowing, not understanding how much of a variety is out there. They just want the hype of connecting with some extraterrestrial being and completely just blank statement, and you can attract anything. So just be very specific and precise in what you are calling into your life. Just connect with your true soul family that connects with the intention of highest love and support on your evolutionary journey. So what the practice or the just simple prayer that I would encourage people to do is connecting with nature with your bare feet, if you can, feeling your heart. Imagine the roots coming down to the earth, honoring the earth, because first and foremost, we are here for her and we're here with her, and we are grateful that she holds this space for us so unconditionally, for so many ecosystems to go through this experience of evolution. So honoring the earth, honoring the ancestors that walk this earth before you, and then expanding to the crown chakra, to the cosmos, calling in the ancestors from the stars that are connected to you, and calling them to hold a sacred space for your growth and evolution, guiding you, supporting you in whatever way is most appropriate for you at this time. Something in those lines. But it's important to ground and root to the earth before you connect to the sky. It's extremely important. It's paramount. Because if you don't do that, you go then through the experience of literally the physical body almost like burning out or not being able to uphold the very high frequencies that sometimes can really come through as you start tapping into your galactic families, and you feel ungrounded. And I've experienced it myself many years ago, to the point where you almost struggle to communicate because you're so high up ungrounded. So just keep grounding when you're connecting to your star soul family. Does that help?
That's beautiful. Yes. Thank you for that. Last question. Why do we incarnate?
To experience the evolution in the physical form, learning to manipulate energy in all its forms, turning lead into gold, really just experiencing our own free will in action and creating something, to experience the process of being a creator, consciously aware, embodied fractal of the I am that wants to know itself in all its forms.
Beautifully said. Well, my goodness, you are absolutely extraordinary. You are beyond impressive with your eloquence and your ability to translate this complex mathematical stuff with the astronomy, and then you add the or the astrology, and then you add the astronomy to it. And that's way above my pay grade to be able to do all that math all together. And you communicate it so beautifully and in such an easily absorbable way that I am so impressed with you and so delighted to have had this long conversation with you. We're going to have you back because I got more questions. And I'm just so impressed and so grateful that you took the time to come be with us today. How can people learn more about you and your work?
Thank you so much, Julie. Before I share that, I do want to pay respect to everyone else who is on a similar journey as I am. All those many thousands of astrologers, well, maybe not thousands, maybe hundreds, who feel guided to explore these things, or people using different modalities. There are so many amazing systems. Like, I really don't feel, I feel a whole collective walking side by side with me. So because we all chip in, it's easier and easier for us to be able to perceive this. So I just want to say that I really, whenever I receive this praise, I feel everyone else with me too.
I do as well. I agree with you on that. Yeah.
Thank you. So everything can be found on my website, Julia Balaz, Balaz, juliabalaz.com. There is a lot of free content on my YouTube channel, Galactic Astrology, which I opened to my certified practitioners community, who now share amazing content in terms of everyday guidance through the galactic transits. So many beautiful, deep, gorgeous insights. And so, for example, if people go to the free calculator website, galacticastrochart.com, they put in their birth details and you notice any of these star systems names, then you can go to the Galactic Astrology YouTube channel, search for, let's say, Pleiades, and their beautiful videos on what it might, what it means if you have a Pleiadian connection, what it means when you have Andromedan connections. So explore the free content on my two YouTube channels, Galactic Astrology and Julia Balaz YouTube channel. And then if it really excites you and you feel your heart expanding and you want to learn more, you can consider the online courses. There are 3 different tiers, from complete beginner, when you have absolutely no clue about astrology. I'll take you from scratch to as far as you want to go and enjoy your life transforming with this expanded perspective.
Okay, so we'll reference all of that in the show notes.
Thank
Lots
you.
to unpack here, everybody. And I know there are just a multitude of golden nuggets here for all of us. I, for one, am going to have to listen to this at least one more time, maybe several, just to absorb everything.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Julie. Just one thing I didn't mention is, if people don't want to study this or even look at this, if they find it overwhelming, but they still want to know what information like I shared with you and more, they can book a session with any of our practitioners. We now have practitioners offering Galactic Astrology soul reading in over 22 languages. So you can choose from over 70 people listed on the page. When you go to Julia Balaz, look for practitioners, and they offer a variety of different sessions. So you can just contact them directly and have your awakening through galactic astrology or activation through galactic astrology. So thank you, Julie, for everything you do too.
You bet. You bet. In the meantime, we're sending you lots of love from Sweet Home, Alabama. Mwah! And from Ireland, too, from Joya. This is Julia and Julie signing off. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us, everybody. To enhance your spiritual journey, click on one of the videos below and remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and share this episode with your family and friends.